Thank you, Chrissy, and thank you everyone for coming along to hear the exciting developments at the RIU project. As Chrissy said, we recently announced our globally significant maiden resource, which is pit-constrained and zinc sulphide dominant. It's 94 million tonnes at 3.1% zinc and lead with 4 grams silver. But within that, there's contained metal of 2.2 million tonnes of zinc, 0.7 million tonnes of lead, and 12.6 million ounces of silver. It's a significant resource. What that lends itself to is a large-scale, low-cost, open-pit mining proposition in the premium mining jurisdiction of Western Australia. And it represents one of the largest zinc sulphide discoveries in the last decade. And it's never been a better time to make zinc discovery. We're highly leveraged to the global renewable energy transition. But what's really exciting about the deposit is that we believe there's exceptional resource growth and tier 1 scale potential. To date, we've tested less than 35% of the unconformity, which goes for 45 kilometres, which hosts those deposits. There's high-grade MVT-style deposit type targets below the known mineralisation, which haven't been tested to date. We believe we have the potential to get to that supergiant category of over 300 million tonnes plus. So really, we are just at the tip of the iceberg of what this could be. And late last year, we put through our excellent metallurgical results where we actually had high recoveries and marketable concentrate grades, which support a potential low capex and opex environment. And it also has great optionality. So whilst we have the 94 million tonnes at 3%, we also have a higher grade, lower tonnage scenario. We've also got a significantly higher grade 460 million tonne resource that could be beneficiated and upgraded, which we'll touch on as we progress. This is just a bit of a corporate snapshot at the moment, circa 140 mil market cap. We're getting some great research from Brad Watson from Bell Potter, and we have got a significant team that's made discoveries and mine development in its own right. We've got Peter Venn, who puts 10 mines into production across Africa and Australia. We've got Brett Keeler, head of technical, who was a significant discoverer, twice AMAC Prospect of the Year. We've got Jeff Jones, ex-MD of GR Engineering, which is a premium mine builder in Western Australia. And we recently brought on Trevor Hart, who was the CFO of Develop, who was instrumental in actually bringing in the Woodlawn zinc deposit to that company, and also $400 million in underground mining contract services. So we've got a really strong team to deliver Irahidi, but we're going to continue to grow and expand on that board and management as we progress. We made this discovery on the 19th of April 2021, and 2 years to the day we announced our maiden resource. And that was made up of 658 holes for over 100,000 metres of drilling, which was an incredible effort considering all the things we were dealing with in regards to COVID and other scenarios. It's zinc sulphide dominant, it's up to 10 to 1, and as I mentioned before, one of the largest zinc discoveries globally in the past decade. It has great access to major highways, power, rail, ports, and a mining workforce. This is just a bit of a snapshot of the resource. I want to make note that this is pit constrained. We had an independent group called Aurelia looking at logistics, processing and mining scenarios. So this is a constrained resource. What you'll see there is the 94 million tonnes at 3.1%, but we've also got 41 million tonnes at circa 4%, 12 million tonnes at 5%. So there is that potential to high grade the resource if we desire to, but there's also that 460 million tonne resource that could be beneficiated and upgraded through a pretty simple process, which I'll touch on as we go. There is exceptional resource growth potential within this resource. What you'll see here is the Chinook deposit, which is outlined in the yellow. To the north-west, we've got the Tonka and Navajo deposits, which sit to the southeast. There is significant potential to grow the resource in between the Tonka and Navajo, and also Tonka and Chinook. And those resources are open in all directions as well. This is just a bit of a snapshot of the Chinook deposit. We can clearly see there's some high-grade components to that, and there are those feeder zones that we've been targeting. We've got over 2.3 kilometres in the Callatan feeder zone. We've got over 2 kilometres in the Chickaman feeder zone as well. So whilst we're targeting the 3% plus open pittable scenario, we are hitting numbers like 6 metres at 11%, 8 metres at 14% in those high-grade feeders. So what that suggests to us is below these resources, there is the potential for high-grade underground resources, which we haven't even tested yet. When you look at this pit-constrained resource, it'll be quite obvious to you, or maybe it's not, but the feeder zones is where the mineralisation is constrained. So it's constrained to the Callatan into the Chickaman feeder zone. You'll also see that there's actually a shallow component to the higher grade, so if we wanted to get into an early stage high-grade mining scenario, there is that possibility. That resource is only constrained to the drilling we've done to date. It's open in all directions. This is the Tonka and Navajo resources, about 8 kilometres to the southeast. You'll see that the focus of the drilling here has been on the Colorado and the magazine feeder zones. Outside of those feeder zones, there's been very limited drilling. So we think with infill drilling and regional drilling, there's exceptional potential to grow those resources. And once again, we're hitting 3 metres at 20%, 5 metres at 14% within those feeder zones. So whilst you're looking at this as a 11 kilometre long mineralised zone, there is that potential for high grade underground below these resources. And once again, this is just a bit of a schematic of those constrained pits. That takes in the Colorado and the magazine feeder zone. So whilst there is mineralisation outside of those the pits, only the constrained elements will be within those resources. This is just I guess a bit of a schematic of what it looks like. The mineralisation starts about 40 metres and gently dips to the east by about 5 degrees. So we believe that the whole 45 kilometres could host this style of mineralisation, and what we've got to actually focus on is the high grade feeders. And if you look at the open pittable scenario here, the areas of where the feeders are is where the pits are constrained. Now, there's an iron oxide sequence above the mineralisation, which is extremely soft, so it actually has the potential for a low-cost waste removal scenario as well. And below those deposits, there is that potential for high-grade MVTs. What's important is when you make a discovery, you want to make sure that the metallurgy stands up. And we had some excellent results at the back end of last year. We had high zinc recoveries to 90% in cleaner concentrates. It's a very coarse grind to 150 micron. It's fast flotation with clean sulfide, and we're fortunate enough to use site water. It's a simple and conventional process flow sheet that gives us the chance for low CapEx, OpEx operation. We're getting zinc concentrate grades to 59%, which at the higher end of global benchmarks. There's no penalty elements within the metallurgy as well, which is a massive bonus for the project. But there's obviously considerable potential to elevate the metallurgical scenarios through optimisation and beneficiation as well. Now, this is like a value add for the project, this DMS and ore sorting. So whilst we believe the 3% goes straight through the flotation, there is that potential for a big, larger volume of mineralisation that sits within the 1.5 to 3% range that we could DMS and ore sort. And that's simply just a very cost-effective and simple way of selecting the waste from the ore. And DMS particularly works well with this style of MVT mineralisation. There's a few examples there where you're getting 4 times upgrade in head grade, 8 times upgrade in head grade. So example, if you had a 1% ore body, you could elevate that to 4%. But what's great about it too is you can actually remove 80% of the waste, which significantly lowers your CapEx in the future. Now, tip of the iceberg. So we've done over 100,000 metres of drilling. There hasn't been a magic formula to find these feeders, but we're getting a much better understanding of how to target those and what's controlling the higher grade. So the mineralisation passes up through multiple geological formations through 4 and 5. We've been targeting number 1, which is the Navajo unconformity. When you get mineralisation near those feeders, you're getting much higher grades and much bigger widths, and as it gets further away, it decreases. But because there's a whole series of feeders, they join up like a coal seam, hence why we get this big mineralisation envelope. Obviously, the focus for us is to find those feeders, and we think we're getting a better understanding, and I'll touch on that later. But what's exciting is target 4, which is 2 layers below, a group called Strickland drilled into that structure and hit high-grade mineralisation. So whilst we've got 45 k's of the unconformity, we've also got that high-grade underground scenario too, which has already been tested by another group called Strickland. So it's very exciting. So this here just gives you the snapshot of the tier scale potential of the project. You'll see that there is the Chinook deposit, the Tonka and Navajo. That only makes up literally 25% of our Navajo unconformity horizon. There's no reason that doesn't continue on all the way through. They are open in all directions. We've got 9 kilometres along the Navajo southeast trend, which we've just generated some significant targets which haven't been tested yet. And we've got another 12 kilometres along the Sweetwater trend, which remains untested. And you've got to imagine too, below those 45 k's, there are the high-grade underground feeder targets as well. So we literally are at the tip of the iceberg of what this could be. Now, as I said before, there hasn't been a magic formula to understand how to target the mineralisation, but what we found recently is if you soil sample above the known deposits, there isn't a signature, but where they daylight out to the west, it does show some tenor of mineralisation. And that tenor of mineralisation generally says there is going to be mineralisation at depth. So you'll see where the deposits are, there is some mineralisation out to the west. We've just soil sampled all the way along the Navajo southeast trend and found over 9 kilometres of soils which are similar, if not better, than what we found at the deposits. So that suggests the mineralisation does continue on. We've also recently flown airborne gravity, and that airborne gravity has showcased that the gravity lows are showcasing where those feeder zones are, and you'll see that where the Colorado and the magazines are. So we've actually flown the airborne gravity along that Navajo southeast trend, and we've actually found another 9 potential feeder targets which haven't been tested to date. We've just had that heritage approved, so we think we've now got a template where we could target these feeders all through the project, and we're going to test that theory very soon. Zinc's role in a low carbon economy. As I said before, there's never been a better time to find zinc. It's critical mineral for the renewable energy storage. In particular, it's a big scenario with offshore wind turbines and zinc coating for your solar panels. And we think in the future it will be part of your batteries, but right now it's about renewable energy. So if you start to look at the production and future supply deficit, they're at significant historic lows. 4 of the 10 major mines are running out of ore in the next 10 years. And if you look at the charts from Wood Mackenzie, by 2040 there's a significant gap looming. And if you start putting together the South 32 climate change scenario, it doubles once again. So what that says to us is that there is a requirement for new mines and new discoveries. So what's going to fill that gap? We believe, and we know, that Irahidi is one of the largest undeveloped zinc deposits globally. Now, 92% of deposits are mined underground with significant higher mining costs. Ours is an open pit scenario. We believe we could significantly grow that to, our target's to sort of 200 to 300 million tonnes from where we are now, which will also mean that the higher grade lower tonnage will grow as well. There is no reason why we can't find high grade underground as we progress the project in the near future, and that's something we'll focus on. But just to give you an idea of what something like this is worth, it's very hard to find zinc deposits. The Hermosa discovery was bought by South 32 4 years ago, 120 million tonne zinc deposit for 2 billion cash. We're currently sitting at a 140 mil market cap, so you can see why we're excited about how we can grow our market cap and share price from where we are today. Sustainability is a big part of what we do. We know it's important. We're engaging with our stakeholders, whether it being the Shire, station owners, but in particular the Native Title Group. We're looking to grow a really strong relationship and be collaborators with the Tempac people. So near-term catalysts at Irahidi. As I mentioned, we've got a big drill program about to commence. We've recently had the Navajo Southeast Trend cleared. We're going to go and test those series of those high-grade feeders. We've also got another 12 kilometres along the Sweetwater Trend, which remains untested, and we hope to put out some targeting numbers there as well. We're going to grow and expand on known resources at Chinook, Tonka and Navajo. And as I said, we believe we could get that to potentially supergiant in the future. We're also going to do some sonic drilling, which will enable us to do beneficiation testing to look at that DMS and ore sorting scenario. It also enables us to start looking to get towards that indicated resource level at this point in time. We're also going to start commencing our scoping studies at the end of 2023 to start wrapping some numbers around there. But all in all, very exciting time for shareholders, very exciting time for any new investors to get some zinc exposure, and a lot of catalysts to come throughout the course of 2023. So once again, thank you very much for taking the time today.